Hello everyone and welcome to Wingin It. So we have a tournament live stream game here for you today, which is coming from the Vouillé Duck Dash from the Wingspan Tournaments Discord server. So this is a round 4 matchup. I can't believe we're already on round 4, absolutely smashing through these tournament games. And this game is between JunePaik and Middlife. So joining me today on commentary, I've got Groovenstein. So hello Groovenstein, how are you doing?
Hello, I am fabulous. How are you?
Good, yeah, I'm doing well, and yeah, looking forward to what should be a good game. And like I said, already round 4, so this is where you got to be a good player to get this far in the tournament. So I'm absolutely expecting a good matchup here between these two players. So I think June is going to send out the invite. We're going to get a random start because it is best of 3. So whoever goes first in this game 1 is going to flip order for game 2. So yeah, if you're ready, June, you can send that out and we're going to go into the game. So good luck to both players. Alright, some good options in the tray. Not such good options in the starting hand there for Midlife going first, but they have got those couple of forest birds in the tray. I guess they can look to rely on.
Yeah, well, they'll, barring a Brant or Rin
Mm.
situation, they're, certainly going to get to pick up one of those birds, and then kind of it looks like they're planning to. And I think based on what they have, I mean, you can only play the cards that you're given.
Yep.
Uh, you know, their plan of kind of keeping the chimney swift
Mm.
and the cowbird looks like a good one. At least they'll be able to get one of those forest birds down quickly, get the chimney swift down, and now they can get two food while they're dancing around.
Yep. Yeah, I actually I don't mind the chimney swift play here. I think with that star nest, it's going to be helpful for those end of round goals, but also those other two end of round goals, it's flexible in that habitat. So yeah, I think if they can get one of those forest birds and suddenly that chimney swift gives them two as well as a wetland bird, it's got flexibility there. So yep, over to June starting hand now. I think they've got some potentially nicer options. Ulogist as well on the bonus card is a nice pull. So that's looking like a good start for them. So yeah, obviously they will kind of expect to get at least one of those forest birds in the tray. I think they will, they will look to go for that certainly.
Yeah, well, they'll look to grab one of those. I mean, one of the things you're looking to do early is try to get birds down quickly, and so cheap birds work really well for that. So you're looking at the vireo, the martin, and one of those forest birds. They're all going to cost one food. So June, I suspect what we'll see is June pick up one of those forest birds, get the martin down because they're going to need to lay eggs before they double up on the vireo, and then try to get the vireo and the forest bird down in the next turn or two.
Yep. Yeah. I think you spelled that out perfectly. I think that's a good start. I think the martin's a really nice bird to get in the grasslands, and yeah, if they can suddenly get those two birds down in the forest, then yeah, you're getting a couple of food, you're getting a point. The Vireo as well is nice again with that star nest within the round goal. So yeah, feels like a nice start there for June.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, just in general, I mean, how do you feel about, because the martin, of course, is such a strong bird in the grassland, right?
Mm.
But when you're looking at a situation like this, you're June. There are no wetland birds in the tray. The martin's the only wetland bird you have. I mean, you know, uh, doesn't that present a different dilemma?
It does a little bit. I think we see these situations a few times where you get one of these nice tucking birds and you think it's always better in the grasslands, but if you don't have that wetland bird to really give you things to tuck, it does kind of make things a bit more difficult. They may be looking here to go for the martin in the wetlands, which is bold. Like I say, it is normally stronger in the grasslands, but it does still work nicely in the wetlands. So I don't think this is a terrible move by any stretch of the imagination.
And now that's interesting that we didn't see Midlife pick up the, pick up one of those forest birds right away.
Mm.
What's your riff on that?
Yeah, it does feel risky. You know, if you're relying just on having that chimney swift, obviously they will be able to get some extra cards and maybe go for the discard. But yeah, I certainly expected the first turn for each player to be, immediately grabbing each of those. So to see them both still there after a few turns, it does surprise me a little bit considering the lack of options in their hands. But yeah, certainly I'd expect June to go for, one of them certainly. They got the food for it. They've got the nice option there with the double up, so I think that makes sense.
Yeah, and it surprises me less with June. I mean, I'm definitely with you in being surprised that Midlife didn't pick one up. Surprises me less with June because when your opponent doesn't take one on their first move, then you start to think, well, maybe they're not interested in it. Maybe I
Mm,
can I can I can take a slightly more optimal path, which is what June has done, which is get that Martin down, get eggs on it. Then you're getting to cycle a card and look at a couple more cards when you
yep,
pick that up instead of just doing the naked draw.
yep, yeah. I think there's an element of that. I think if as soon as you see, a move or I guess lack of move from your opponent, that kind of gives you some indication as to what you can get away with. And yeah, maybe both players are sort of double bluffing here and kind of signaling that they have a nice bird themselves in the forest, that they don't need one of those nuthatches. But yeah, certainly I think June's got to be picking up at least one here, and they could even take both, using that tuck on the Martin. So yeah, maybe they might look at that, or just go blind from the deck. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, now here's June's done an interesting. Okay,
There we
I
go.
guess if you're planning on taking both of those, but I thought I was kind of wondering why June didn't draw two from the deck before tucking and grabbing one of those because one of the things those cards are a known quantity and you know that you can get one if you look at two from the deck. Maybe you pick up a hummingbird. Maybe you pick up
Mm,
a raven or some other bird like that's going to change your approach a little bit,
yep.
or maybe change it entirely. And so, my preference is, I mean, if now if June is thinking, okay, I'm definitely playing both of these birds, then I understand the approach. But what it personally what I would have done was I would have looked at two from the deck and then seen, okay, is one of these, am I do I still want to tuck one of these to grab one of the nuthatches?
Yep, I think that's a good point. Certainly, it's always risky, taking multiple cards from the tray because you are suddenly going to reveal, much more to your opponent. I think particularly where, um, you know, Midlife was probably looking at drawing cards just based on the way they've moved their Swift down there.
Oh yeah,
It kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
signals to your opponent, yeah, this is my plan, and that's kind of the weakness sometimes in these migratory birds, is that you're basically telegraphing to your opponent exactly what you're going to do on your next turn. So
Hmm.
yeah, it was potentially a risk, and obviously the hummingbirds come up, which I think is a nice option for midlife, but certainly I think the nuthatch was potentially a stronger one for them. Get that down in the forest, and then with the chimney swift, you've got two birds like what June set up already in their forest as well.
Yeah, I guess if June is looking at it potentially as a blocking move, that certainly makes sense. But then midlife is doing what I would expect here, which is, okay, if I can generate some food in the wetland, I'm not in as much of a rush to get that forest built up, especially.
Mm.
I mean, you would do this regardless of the end of round at the second round, but the second round being birds in the wetlands, it also gives them a little bit of a leg up there too.
Yep. Yep. I think that's you've hit the nail on the head there, really. So yeah, be interesting to see, how midlife takes this here. Obviously, the hummingbird in the wetlands don't always see it there, but I think with the cowbird, if they can get that down, they know that June is going to have to lay eggs at some point. Obviously, maybe if they've got that martin down in the grasslands and started building up something there, then you might expect a bit more usage from it. But yeah, I think certainly for if you're midlife, you want to be getting that cowbird down as soon as possible. You've got plenty of bowl nest space, and yeah, hope to just dig through that deck and get some nice cards to play.
Yeah, and as we see, I mean, they've already got the food for the
Mm,
cowbird, so
yep,
they, you look to get that cowbird down, and then
100%.
draw a couple cards, pick up a piece of food,
Yep.
and start getting eggs. And they've got 4 spots, 2 of which are occupied. But I mean, over the course of the game, you'll get to spend those, and they probably, I imagine, won't have a whole lot of trouble with making sure that they've got the nest space they need.
No, I wouldn't imagine so. Like you say, for four spaces, it will certainly keep them going for at least a little bit. And maybe they might look at that warbler in the tray as another option. Big points, only a couple of food. They should easily be able to get that from the hummingbird, and yeah, it just gives them a bit more flexibility. But equally, seeing 2 cards a turn, you can afford to dig through the deck a little bit, and yeah, take your chances and see what you can draw.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about that aspect of it, of rather than getting the cowbird down, picking up the warbler. There's already
Mm.
a second grub in the tray or in the feeder, and so yeah, it might make more sense to draw 2 cards, look at one from underneath, grab the warbler, pick up the grub, assuming that June doesn't take it on this turn, and yeah, and then now you've got a big points bird, and if you need to grab 2 pieces of food at a time, more than one, more than just the one the hummingbird allows you, it does give you that option.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think it's an either or. I think they can still get the cowbird down. They've still got 2 turns left in this round, so you can play the cowbird, and then you've still got a turn drawing card. So I think assuming as long as June doesn't take it here, which they might do, but I'd be surprised. Given they've already got that nuthatch, which is probably a stronger forest bird at this point. And yeah, during that Foster's turn, that's a nice pull for June. So. But yeah, I certainly I would, if I'm in midlife's position, I'm thinking right, I want to get that cowbird down, really maximise the number of eggs I can get from it. But yeah, that warbler in the tray, that's probably the first one that I'd look at picking up and try and get the food for that as soon as possible.
Hmm. Yeah, that Forcer's turn is as you say, that's just a terrific bird. I mean, it's Star Nest,
Yeah.
which it works with 3 of the end rounds, lets you cycle through cards.
Oh, and there's another turn. So that's a nice little pull there for June. Interesting that they took the hooded warbler and then immediately tucked it behind the martin. So I can only assume they're looking at that as a pure denial. It's an odd move that to draw a card and not even see what you could potentially get from the deck. But yeah, I can only assume that was them just playing a couple of turns ahead and trying to stop their opponent from drawing that.
I mean, that strikes me as a likelier option than June has playing this game, having consumed massive amounts of alcohol. But I wouldn't necessarily rule out the latter.
No, they're experienced enough at this game, I think, to
Oh yeah.
to not make a silly mistake like that. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and assume that it's intentional. But yeah, not a bad pull there for midlife. I think that puffin is expensive, but they've already taken 1 fish, so kind of that to me signals they're going to try and get that down. And we have a Franklin's gull in the tray, so everything
Oh
that June was probably planning about, I can get these turns down and get some nice card cycle, that's probably out the window now.
yeah, no doubt. And now they're having that that buyer's remorse he gets
Yep.
sometimes, where you put the martin down, and I don't know. We'll have to have Mother Love tell us which rule number that is, but where you play a bird that would go perfect with another bird in a different habitat
Yeah.
that then shows up.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they're necessarily bad cards still to play. They're going to help with you know second and third end of round goals. They need to get birds down for this bonus card as well to really max that out. And they're cheap birds to play. And I think one of the problems you can run into when you're using Franklin's Skull and don't have any real backup is that you get a lot of cards, but you don't get a lot of food. So you really kind of need to maximise and prioritise these cheap birds that get you 4 or 5 points a time, get as many of those down as possible. So interesting with the bluebird. I think maybe they're thinking at least extend that grasslands out a little bit. Maybe they've got an eye on that third end of round goal and that fourth end of round goal as well. So yeah, not the move I was expecting, but yeah, I guess we'll see if they get lucky on the re-roll. They'll be obviously hoping for a cherry and a fish as well for that goal.
Sure. I imagine, in addition to what you said about the third and fourth end of rounds, a lot of times what players, particularly newer players, forget about once they realize, oh, the gull is an amazing bird, or oh, the raven's an amazing bird, and they shove them in their grasslands, and they forget that while these birds are doing awesome things, they're also sucking eggs.
Yep.
And so, I think maybe what June is looking at is, okay, if I'm going to have a gull that's going to cost me an egg every time, every time I use it, I want to try to get that grassland built out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right there. So many times you see, okay, yeah, I've got that goal down, but I'm getting a couple of cards. I'm just a single point. Really, you need to start building up on that. And yeah, I think if they've got a nice tray, obviously, they'll get free food here, which is massive, and then they can spend that last turn getting the other 2 food they need, and bam, get those 2 cards down in the start of round 2. So yeah, this certainly feels like a good position for June. But let's not forget the cowbird that Middlife has still got. So as soon as they see that goal down, I think that for them is going to be the signal of, yeah, I need to prioritize getting this down as soon as possible. But equally, I think they'll have to think carefully about using this hummingbird, because you don't want to be giving free food away to someone who's got the goal, because cards aren't going to be the problem for June. It's going to be trying to get access to food.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you just play right into the goal strength by giving it food. Thankfully, they do have, I believe, a yellow-bellied sapsucker in there, which is a bird they could get down. That's going to generate food for them. They don't have the food for it right now, but they do have the food for the nuthatch. The problem with the nuthatch is that's a card sucker, and they don't have cards. They don't have a strong wetland to generate cards to tuck for it. So
yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I mean, you say they don't have the food for the sapsucker. I mean, they could have picked the food if they wanted. So on that last re-roll on the previous turn, there was a cherry in the feeder. So I think they could have looked to get that down, and like you say, suddenly you're able to get potentially 3 food a turn, as opposed to just the 1. And yeah, I think as soon as this goal goes down, they'll think, right, I need to halt on the hummingbird and really try and get food elsewhere. They certainly seem to be prioritizing getting this puffin, which to me, that's an end game problem. Worry about getting the fish for that later. You don't really need to prioritize it now, just because it's so much food for really, it's not giving you brown powers or anything like that. But yeah, we see the goal go down, and pretty much instantly from Middlife, 0 seconds of thinking time, get that down straight away.
Yeah, just like a rocket ship. In poker they call that like a snap call or a snap fold, where it's like if your hand is garbage, you're going to get rid of it the instant your opponent reaches for chips. They don't even have to put them in there. Your cards hit the muck. So yeah, we'll call that a snap play a bird.
Yep, and I think I don't really blame Middlife at all there. Obviously, there are some nice options in the tray, so yeah, interesting. Jude's looking at another chickadee, so they're potentially going to have 2 nuthatches and a chickadee all in their forest, which is nice. I think maybe they're looking a little bit at that third end of round goal. But also, if you're able to get 3 food and 3 points on those caches at the same time.
Oh, and there's a fish crow.
And there's the fish crow, which is probably the bird they would have rather had, but.
Yeah, and Middlife better be all over that.
Yep. Yeah, I think they really need to be, and yep, they are going to take that. Sensible. I think that's a pretty clear deny. Gull and fish crow is such a strong combination in the grasslands. We see it time and time again.
Yeah, and not only is that a clear deny. I mean, I think that for them is a reasonable bird in its own right to put in the grassland when they've got the cowbird there to help them generate eggs.
Yeah, it's not a bad point. Certainly, they had been collecting fish, obviously for that puffin, but that has the nice, convenient side effect now of being able to get the crow down. So yeah, I think I think that does make sense. We talked before about how having to shut this hummingbird down, and if they can find another food source in their grasslands with the crow, then that is a good option. I just think at the moment the kind of egg space is looking like their problem. Um, you know,
Mm.
there's only another couple on the crow, and you're going to run out on the bold nest pretty quickly from the cowbird. So I think they will have to think carefully about what they do with this swift, and are they going to get anything down in their forest, or do they think they can just rely on that crow?
Yeah, well, one thing that jumps out to me, and I don't know if this is the right move. I'll just throw it out there, and because to show people that sometimes you come up with ideas and they're crap. But I thought, okay, what if you throw the fish crow down in the grassland? You draw some more cards, and then in a couple turns you can have the food for that heron and the condor, and or actually no, excuse me, is that a condor, or no, that's a vulture. Okay, never mind. I was thinking
Plan
I was
ruined.
thinking that, yeah, plan ruined. Okay, confirmed crap. Uh, but
No.
yeah, no, I was thinking like, okay, you get the heron and the condor down, cost you 2 food. Now you can draw 3 cards when you send your swift back to the wetlands. But yeah, never mind. I'm sure that's on a bingo square somewhere. Commentator commentator
Yeah,
tastes foot.
yeah. Misremembers a bird or misreads a bird. I don't know. We'll get that on next time, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sure there's plenty of nice uh, comments getting dropped in the chat right now as I stumble through that one. And
oh,
you know what,
absolutely. Yeah.
they're all deserved, every single one.
No, well, right at the start of the stream, I did accidentally have your volume 20 decibels lower than it should have been, so no one could hear you. But they probably wish that I'd put it back down as you were talking through that. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Hey, remember before the stream when I asked you if the volume was okay, and
I remember it
and you said,
very
oh,
well.
yeah, oh, I have the levels the same as I
Yeah,
had them before.
yeah.
Okay, so I was quiet before then. That's lovely, Flan. Thank you. I'm glad I'm held. You hold me in such high esteem.
No, it was just me forgetting that I had reset everything. So yeah, when I said everything was the same as last time, I lied. But it's all good. Hopefully everyone can hear you loud and clear, even if you can't recognise birds properly.
Yeah,
We'll
so
allow that.
that's fair. We'll chalk it up to age.
Yeah, no, fair enough. All right, so
So there's a game here.
there is, and yeah, I feel like pretty straightforward for June. They had the foods to at least get either the nuthatch or the chickadee down. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they go for a discard. Probably they can afford to get rid of that house wren. And yeah, hopefully get lots of foods, some more birds that Midlife's drawing that probably June would have liked. I think that Phoebe's a nice one. But yeah, that's kind of the bird I guess even Midlife's looking for now. Star Nest got lots of egg spaces, easy to get down. So certainly I'd be playing that, even if I'm not going to be activating that power because it is going to help my opponent too much.
Yeah, I mean, you say these are birds that June would have liked, and that's no doubt true. They're conversely, they're birds like you say that Midlife doesn't necessarily want to use the power on, but
Yeah.
yeah, definitely worth playing. Lots of egg spots there for the cowbird, and
Mm. Now, interesting that
huh.
Midlife keeps using this hummingbird, and they've gone for another fish. So they now got 4 fish in their supply. So I'm just trying to work out: are they going to get this fish crow down, or are they trying to go for that heron puffin double play and go for this end of round? If that is the case, it does feel like they're maybe a little bit getting too involved in these end of round goals, because I think that food, that you're giving food away, like we said, to a player who's got very easy access to both eggs and cards. So it always feels like a little bit of a risk there.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I can see if they are trying to get, the heron puffin down, like you say, you can see the appeal of it, where it's
Mm.
a big point play. It's 13 points minus egg cost and gives you a bonus card. That's great, but like you say, that's just the kind of play that you want to be doing at the end of the game.
Mm.
Early on,
Yeah.
it's kind of the economics sort of dictate that you're short on resources, and you want to be well, of course, your goal with every turn is to maximize that turn. You really want to be minding the fact that you're short on resources in the beginning, and looking more towards favoring birds that are going to help you generate resources versus the heron puffin play, which is purely about generating points.
Yep. Yeah. And we it's been pointed out in the chat. It's something I picked up on as well. You just look at the two boards. Juniors, they've already got 6 birds down. Imagine they're going to look to get this other nuthatch or chickadee down as well as a seventh bird. And it's just kind of a huge contrast to where midlife is. Really 4 birds looking towards the end of round 2. It's quite low. Certainly you'd be hoping for more than that. And yeah, I think you're right. You want to be getting these brown powers down. That fish crow potentially could have gone down a bit earlier. And yeah, they've spent a lot of turns drawing cards. They're going to be spending another one drawing cards here. They're not scoring points here. They're just drawing more cards that they're not going to be able to play, and at the same time giving food away to their opponent, which is so valuable. So it does feel a little bit odd, and maybe, like we said, just kind of getting blinded by this end of round that, to be honest, they've probably got in the bag anyway, because it doesn't look like June's really that focused on going for these birds in the wetlands. Instead, they're getting birds and getting points down, which feels like the sensible play.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, there's so much of an economic aspect to this, and you point out they're drawing a lot of cards that they're not going to play. The thing is, over the course of a game, you're going to draw cards. I mean, I don't know. Let's say 6 times, 8 times. I don't know what the number is, but six, if you're going to, so let's just say 6, right? If you're drawing cards 6 times over the course of the game, you want to make sure that you're maximizing the effect, the quantity of cards that you're going to be getting each time, or the number of tucks that you're going to get, or whatever. So just
Yep.
keeping in mind, like, drawing cards 6 times in the first 2 rounds and then just playing whatever you get, versus spacing those draws out over the course of the game in a strategic way. You're going to end up getting more cards and more points, and really taking advantage of your draws in a better way. So it's I keep bringing up economics. They can maybe that'd be a good subject for a video, Flan. The economics of Wingspan.
Hint, hint. Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
you make some really good points, and I think it is always useful to plan your turns out, like you say. And I'm thinking, okay, if I'm midlife, like you say, you've got way more birds at this point than you could ever hope to play. Are you going to go the rest of the game without drawing cards? What if something really nice comes up, and then you've got to spend another turn drawing cards? I never like being in a position at the end of the game having lots of cards in my hand, because it feels like I've probably wasted turns somewhere drawing cards when I should have just gone, what, I've drawn enough, I've got some okay things to work with, I just need to try and get food and get these down, and at least make the most of their brown powers, and try and score points that way. It does feel a little bit like midlife is kept going through the deck. Maybe they're not happy with what they're seeing, trying to get food for these birds that they're going to play one by one from the hummingbird, while also helping their opponent. It does feel on the slow side, so I do worry a little bit. Obviously June's setup is very strong anyway, but yeah, it feels a bit slow, and it feels like they're kind of letting the game almost slip away from them at this point.
Yeah, it reminds me of a point that I believe it was Wingsplain Gaming made on the Discord, and they were saying, you're better off because of the power of, here I go with economics again, I roll. But no, because of the power of compounding, right? It can be better to take maybe a meh action versus holding out for a premium action when you can take that meh action multiple times. So it's like you don't want to spend too much time kind of trying to draw amazing birds when you're a lot of times just better off kind of playing a mediocre bird and just kind of keeping the game progressing. And I'm we've all done this as much as everyone else. I mean, this is not something that we're not being critical of midlife. I mean, every one of us has done this.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to kind of, I mean, it's what we call tempo, right? Where you don't want to, yeah, you're going to take certain actions a certain number of times during the game or whatever, but you want to make sure that you're kind of taking them in a way that's building towards something.
Yep, and I think Elsie mentioned the point that you were talking about there, that Wingsplains talked about before on the server. A good card played early is better than a great card played late. So certainly it feels like maybe Midlife has spent a few too many turns trying to get that great card. Maybe they're looking for a Raven or something to try and match what Junior's got. Probably the best bonus cards I could have put there. I did see someone
talking about
someone in
birds you're not gonna play.
Yeah, someone in the chat joking about how Midlife was going for the visionary president goal of getting 20 cards in their hand. I don't think that's coming in any of the future expansions, but who knows? But yeah, visionary leader, they'll be sitting there feeling pretty smug about all these extra birds that they've just got 7 points for that bonus card.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, and I see Elsie again. Elsie saying says still more cost efficient to play a tuck and lay and chuck them all. Like that's the thing too, where okay, maybe you're not thrilled about tucking a great bird if you have, now Midlife doesn't have a tuck and draw or tuck and lay, right? But that card, every card potentially has value other than just playing it. So it's like, okay, if you have a say an 8 points bird and a 6 points bird, but you can tuck and draw with the 8 points bird several times, and that card can be earning, you know what I mean? So it's there's a point in there somewhere with this that a card has value other than just its if you play it, it can be spent in other ways.
Absolutely. More often you might see it discarded for extra food. Obviously, the way Midlife's played this game, they're almost like they're trying to avoid the forest as much as possible. They have now committed. They've got the Phoebe down. So I do wonder now if this is kind of continuing on. I guess not worrying too much about giving things away to June. Obviously they're going to be able to get a couple of food now with the Fish Crow and the Phoebe, which is nice. But I think they will have to be a little bit careful. As with the Hummingbird, I think the more food they're going to give away, it's just going to save June, the worry of having to get food themselves, and they can spend more turns playing these birds, like the Swan they've just picked up. I think that's a nice pull for them.
Yeah, now maybe Midlife is thinking, because one of the things that I do is, and which I learned from Chop is, if your opponent is able to generate a lot of resources in a certain area, flood them, right? So maybe they're thinking, okay, now that June has, they've got this huge built-out forest, and in their grassland, the goal is great to be able to draw 2 cards, but they can only pull 2. If June had a Brewer's Blackbird or a Dick Thistle or something, I mean, it would be GG, right? But but maybe they're thinking, okay, there's not much of a risk here to give them this extra food because their grassland is not really as strong as it looks.
Yeah, it's a good point actually. You know, you look at June's setup and you think, okay, well, you know, at the moment they're only actually getting 2 points in that grasslands. You know, they're getting the 3 eggs, but they have to discard one. They're getting 3 points in their forest just from that cache food. So I think they're at the point now where, you know, they've drawn some good birds. I think the golden eye is a good play there. So, you know, as soon as you see your opponent build up something in the grasslands, you want to try and get these pink powers down. And you're just
Oh yeah.
looking at June's board. Every single bird is either a cavity nest or a star nest. So I don't think they're going to run out of egg space for that golden eye.
Wow,
But
wow, literally,
yeah,
literally every single
literally
like
everyone.
literally. Do I have
Yeah,
to say it twice for it to mean
I think
literally?
you
Is
do.
that
Yeah,
okay?
because if you say it once, you probably aren't meaning it literally. You
Yeah,
know. But
I'm just
no,
I'm
it's a good play, and I think, you know, now. You know, they can just spend a few turns drawing food. You know, they've got the swan, that's a nice big point bird. You know, they might look to get, I think they've got one of the sparrows that's going to get them extra eggs for that late game, and also that last end of round goal. So certainly, I think June's got some good options here. You know, they've already got all the birds down needed for their bonus cards, so they've just got to get food and yeah, see if they can get some more nice pulls in the rest of the game.
yeah, and I think what we'll see from June is as you say that trumpeter swan's a big play, and then I think we'll also see June put down the house wren with the sparrows so they can get out to make that grassland a 5 points
Yeah,
5 points engine that's going to help them fill up those egg spots and get their bonus card.
yeah, it's a good point. I forgot they had the house wren, and you know what? It's another cavity nest, so it's right on brand for June at the moment. I think they'll get that down, and yeah, it's got lots of egg spaces as well, which is going to certainly help them for that final end of round goal. And yeah, I feel like June has really been able to target at least these last two. And you know, we say it all the time in a two-player game like this. I think if you're able to win at least two of those end of round goals, you know, not give points away, not come out losing to your opponent in those, it's a strong position. And yeah, you know, June's going to score well in all the other categories as well. So certainly feels like a good position for them to be in at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Flynn. I don't know exactly what it was you just said. I was just so pleased with myself that I remembered the correct bird. That it was that's the house wren. I didn't try to say it was the condor.
No, you absolutely nailed that. Considering it's hidden away at the end of their hand, they just gave us a little flash there. So yeah, probably they'll look to get those two down. And yeah, like you say, you just build up that grasslands, you get more points as well from the sparrow. So certainly feels like a sensible option at this point. And
Yeah,
there
it
we
looks
go.
like.
They're going to get them both down, and yeah, I think they will, you know, they'll want to lay eggs on this last turn just to make sure that they're able to get, you know, as many of their cavity nest birds filled up as possible. Obviously, they only need one in each just for this end of round goal, but certainly, you know, I like the timing on that, and you know, maybe they're even at the point now of okay, I don't need the gull anymore. Certainly, that's one is a nice option, but I think if I'm June at this point, I wait and see what's in that tray. You know, they've got the luxury of going first in that last round. You know, if a nice big point bird comes up, then obviously you can look to pick it up then. But certainly, the priority at this point is just getting points from those eggs, and yeah, getting the food for that swan.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I wonder if June is thinking. You know, I wishing they got those birds down a little bit sooner because I don't know if their 95 cavity nests are going to be enough to win this end of round. So
I think they'll just about be okay. I think they maybe were a little bit worried as that sapsucker came down. I think that's the fifth one. But I think that's probably still only halfway to to what Gina's got, so they're probably going to be okay. But you know, you never know. Stranger things have happened. Yeah,
all right, so
fairly
going
comfortable
into
win.
the yeah going into the end here. I mean, I got to think it's looking good for June. Although call the midlife does have that.
How long have you
Sorry,
been waiting to get that one in?
since the beginning, since the very beginning, I swear to you.
Right. Unfunny joke is getting ticked off the bingo. I'll just let you know.
Thank you. As again, deserved.
Yeah.
That's all right, Flint. You know, if you got to be willing to, you know, it can't all be your A material, or maybe your A material isn't even very good. In my case, you know, in which case, then you should, you know, consider some other activity. But yeah, I mean, they've got that, you know, that heron bald eagle play lined up, which is going to get them, you know, 10 points, I think.
Yeah.
Of course, they're going to have to draw cards again, which would be a 4-point turn for them, if they're looking at meeting that visionary leader.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, that's where the weakness of having the visionary leader comes in, because it almost makes you think, oh, I don't want to play these birds, or oh, I want to spend a turn drawing cards just to try and score points on that bonus card. You know, really, you know, I'm thinking, looking at their board, they've got quite a nice end game. It's fairly straightforward, like you said. You've got that heron, you've got the bold eagle. You know, try and get both of those down in a double play. It scores you lots of points, frees up some egg spaces that you can then lay more eggs in. But yeah, I don't know at this point if it's worth trying to max that out. You know, they only get 3 cards from drawing cards, so that'll put them up at 8, which is the maximum you need, I think, for the visionary leader. So if they are going to then go for the double play, it's going to bump them down a notch. So they'll have to decide.
They have to go for the double play because they're so short on egg space. Yeah.
No, you're right. They have to. You know, maybe they look at drawing cards twice. You know, I think they might need an extra food, so they haven't got a rodent for the eagle, so they might be gambling on that. And yeah, I mean, you make the comment on egg spaces; those are filling up even more quickly. You know, we know that June is just going to be focusing on laying eggs throughout the rest of this round, so plenty more for Midlife to be picking up. But yeah, interesting decision point here. You know, do you go for the double play, or do you just focus on getting this eagle down and try and max out that visionary leader bonus card?
Oh yeah, because the eagle itself is a 7-point play, and then so you go 7, and then you know, draw twice is you know, draw twice and then lay eggs once. I mean, that gets you 7. You know.
Yeah, it's not great.
And 14, another maybe 20-ish points.
Yeah. It's okay. I think they will have to be careful. You know, I'm looking at what June's doing. I think they are putting off drawing food as long as possible. You know, they want to be getting that swan down. I think they're gambling on another free worm from this Phoebe. So, you know, if that comes early enough, and they can use that to get the swan down, then that's a good play. But yeah, I think they're probably like us, looking at Midlife's board and trying to think, okay, well, are they actually going to lay eggs again? You know, they're already full. That's not a bad pull for them. You know, they've got that viticulturist bonus card. Yeah, they've already got 2 that meet it, and those would be the other 2. So yeah, if they can get at least 1 food, I mean, they might not even need it on this reroll to get both of those down, and it frees up some egg spaces. So yeah, I feel like that's probably going to score more points than the bold eagle at this point. But you know, potentially they might even be able to look at doing both if they can get the food at the same time, get both those down, and score lots of points.
Yeah, because that double move is worth about, I don't know, 8 or something, right? So
yeah, in that ballpark.
With the double move with the titmouse.
Yeah. And yeah, like I said, I think you know, June was really waiting on that free food. They got the seed they needed, so that's one's going down, 7 points. Happy days, and yeah, I think they'll just lay eggs for 5 more points on each of their last 2 turns. You know, max out this final end of round goal, and they're probably looking at 100 points here. You know, when you've got 12 birds down like that, they're gonna have a lot of eggs. You know, some big bird points as well, and obviously a nice bonus card. This certainly feels like it's been a good game for June.
Yeah, and that's something, you bring up when you say waiting for that extra food from the Phoebe. That's a great tip for a new or even kind of medium experienced player, where you think, okay, I want to get this swan down by the end of the game, right? Is there anything that says that I have to play this now versus another time? Okay, and
Yeah.
so if I wait and see if they give me that extra food, then I can save myself a trip to the forest, and pick up a couple extra points that way.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, shameless little plug. I posted a video recently, and actually it was a game featuring June, where I was playing against
Ah,
June.
okay.
So, and that was all about trying to anticipate what your opponent's doing. So I think they had a Phoebe and a Hummingbird, and I had some pink power. So, really what I was doing on my turn was entirely dictated by what I expected them to do. Because if they're going to lay eggs, I think, right, I don't need to. They're going to give me food. Okay, I don't need to gain food. I can afford to get cards. And like you say, so much I think of this game, especially in a two-player scenario like this, where it's only one other player you're looking at. I think you almost need to be paying attention to what your opponent is doing more than what you're doing yourself, because
Hey,
so much is going to impact on the decisions you make.
hey, Flan. You know what that is? That's game theory, and you know what game theory is? Economics.
We've gone full circle.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
someone's got to start a petition. Get the economic square on the bingo board next time.
yeah. But you can only use it when I'm talking. It's
Yeah,
I was the
no
one
one
who
else
said,
is no one else is dry enough to bring it up.
yeah. Or groove references some other fields. Like there was the one time I said, oh, he doesn't have the infrastructure for that. It's like groove makes some sort of non-wingspan technical reference.
Yeah, yeah, plenty of those. But no, we love to see it. All right, so interesting. So Midlife's going for this double play. I think they did manage to get the food just about. Obviously, they're overpaying slightly. It maybe I don't know. It feels odd. It's a nice situation to play the Bold Eagle normally because you're getting two free fish, which in most games you can't really count on. But I don't think they can really do anything with that at this point. So it's a nice play. We talked about it before. It's going to get a lot of points. I think they will still just about meet that lower threshold on the visionary leader at least, so they'll get some points. And it's going to free up some egg spaces. So that last turn, obviously, just lay eggs. But yeah, it's a nice play, as we said. Scored a lot of points at the end.
Yeah, and I mean it's they've played a decent game. I
Mm.
hope we haven't sounded or at least I haven't sounded overly critical. I don't care if you do. You can sound like you to Himmler for all I care. But no, like they've played a decent game. They're
Mm.
gonna have a good score. I mean, they're probably gonna score. Just eyeballing their board and everything. I mean, they're probably gonna score in the 90s.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
so
yeah. I don't. I think, like you say, they've not played badly. I think it maybe took a few too many turns to set up. I think what they've got here is nice. They've got nice looking grasslands. They've got some real big point birds down. They've got a couple of decent bonus cards they're going to score some points from. And yeah, the end game has been very straightforward. I think if you cost yourself those few too many turns, like we talked about early in the game, just maybe drawing cards a couple too many times and not getting those birds down, that is potentially what has maybe cost them the points that are going to stop them winning this game. But yeah, absolutely, it certainly looks like it's at least going to be in the 80s. I think this score could well go into the 90s. But yeah, very very respectable. I think whenever you're playing against a card like the Franklin's Goal, you're going to be struggling. So it's never easy. But yeah, we'll see as the scores count up. Certainly feels like Midlife's going to get a lead from the bird points. End of round goal is going to bring it back a little bit. Most likely it's going to be the eggs and the cash food that's going to bring this back for June. And
yeah,
certainly looks like it. Obviously, not many top cards, and there we go. As you said, in the 90s for Midlife, so very, very respectable. Being able to bring it that close, when you're against a Franklin's Goal, certainly managed to, yeah, deal with that game very well in the mid to late game. and that cowbird probably MVP there, getting lots of eggs. But they
Oh
managed to
yeah.
set up a nice grasslands around it, and yeah, got the food source to get those big point birds down at the end as well. So yeah, good game. As I mentioned before, this is best of 3. So congratulations to June for game 1. However, it's not over yet. We will have game 2 and potentially a deciding game 3. So do stick around. I believe we might be having a change in commentary for game 2.
Yes.
Uh, yes, there's your change.
Yep. I'm on
Seamless.
top this time.
Elsie wasted no time.
Almost
It's
like we'd
like
rehearsed it.
get him out of there. I am here to save the
You're
broadcast.
doing fine, Groove.
Oh, I know, but you're like my mother. I can't do self-deprecating humor around her. She just, she can't take it. We would have been terrible Brits. We're not, we're not depressed enough. Anyway.
And on that bombshell,
Yeah, there you go.
time
Go
time
out
for
with a
you-
whimper.
time for you to leave.
See you guys.
Cheers, Groove. All right, Elsie, how did you find that game? That certainly was pretty close in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got to say I was surprised by Midlife's ending score.
Mm.
I mean, I missed a lot of the game because I was popping in and out, but like, you guys spent a lot of time talking about how many turns Midlife was wasting, and to end up with a 93 at the end of that is impressive.
Yeah. I mean, they spent a lot of turns drawing cards, but with that visionary leader pool and some of those big point birds they got at the end, certainly was worthwhile in the end. But yeah, we are straight into game 2, and
That's a much better starting hand.
I agree. I think the mallard certainly is a very nice option. So not at all surprising that they're jumping all over that. Flycatcher potentially works here. They can pick
I'd
up
go
the worm.
Burrowing Owl.
Yeah, burrowing owl is nice for the end of round goals. So
Yeah.
they could look at keeping both. I just think they'll need something for the forest, or at least some food source. There's nothing really in the tray that looks appealing. Maybe you play that vulture, but you are kind of then gambling that your opponent's gonna get some hunting powers. So yeah, I would probably lean towards flycatcher here, but certainly the mallard and the burrowing owl are good picks.
You wouldn't take the red-tailed hawk because of food cost, right? Only one rat in the feeder.
Yeah, I don't think I would. It's not an urgent play.
Yeah.
It's kind of a last resort forest bird, I guess. Not the kind of thing that you rely on. And yeah, like you say, those 2 rodents. Certainly, if I'm keeping the burrowing owl, that one in the tray is going to be what I'm going to play with that rodent. So.
Can we talk about how cool Midlife's
Yeah,
habitat view is?
this is the fancy new Chinese New Year background they've got. So very nice. It reminds me of when we were doing games during Christmas, and you got the Christmassy background. So it's always nice to get that slightly different background. So yeah,
I liked the freak rainstorm personally. No love for the brooding owl.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's one of those where it's normally not a priority. Get that bird in your grasslands, and people get put off by the power, but it works for all the end of round goals. It's got a lot of egg spaces, and especially if you are going for a flycatcher as your main food source, you're going to need to lay eggs a lot of times to get enough food. So certainly, you want something like the burrowing owl to have the egg space. And like we said in the last game, it's not a great power, but if you're activating a lot in the grasslands, you might still get a few points from it in the end of the game. So it certainly isn't a terrible option.
I run burrowing owl and got 1 cast food on the last turn of the game though, so I wouldn't bet on anything.
No, I think
that owl hates me. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I think with these powers, I tend to, almost ignore the power, and I think look at it at face value. I'm getting 5 points for 4 egg spaces. If I get a couple of cached food, that's a bonus. I'm not gonna factor that into my decision of whether I play it or not, because if you expect food, you're not gonna get it, and you're just gonna be disappointed.
Well, that's a grassland engine right there.
Yeah, I think it is. because there's no other real options.
Nope.
No,
Yeah.
no forest birds. Maybe the
No forest
pelican, but
birds.
yeah, really a difficult one. That's kind of the setup where you play that Robin and just try and cycle through cards and hope you get something good. The sparrow's an
Yeah.
interesting keep, maybe just with an eye on this end of round goal. At least get something down that has the right nest type. But they're straight in there, not even messing about. Get those 2 birds. I'm not even going to look at the rest of what's in my hand or in the tray. So fair play.
They did keep backyard birder rather than enclosure builder, which is interesting.
It is, maybe they're looking at, okay, I'm already going to get these 2 down. Maybe they're looking at the condor as something at least to get in their forest, and that would be a 3rd backyard bird. But yeah, when you start with a bonus card like that, you don't want to be working towards it. Again, it's kind of like if I meet it accidentally, I'll take the points, but I'm not going to intentionally play these low point birds just to meet it and get a few points from the bonus. It's generally not worth doing.
Yeah. The condor's sort of switching out the bonus card. 1 point for the, 1 bird towards backyard birder, and then, well,
they're not going to get it.
That wasn't Midlife's plan.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, because I didn't pick this up when June chose their hand, but based on the food they kept, it's not really the kind of food you'd keep if you were going to play the flycatcher, which is weird considering they kept it. Because normally you'd expect, okay, I keep a cherry, I keep a worm, I take a worm from the feeder, and I can play it. And then whenever I activate it, it's going to give me a worm. I can get the mallard down, and I'm good to go. So I do wonder if they're maybe changing tact a little bit. Or if this was their plan all along. The condor certainly, it's not a bad option at the start if they've not got anything for the forest. Helps the end around goal, and maybe they get a nice bonus card from it as well. So yeah, we'll
Like the worst
see.
forest I can think of off the top of my head is California condor and the turkey vulture.
It's not great. It's not great, but it's free. You've not had to pay any food to play it. So from that perspective, it's nice.
Snipe, my boy.
Snipe is a good option. I wouldn't expect June to go for it because they have got the mallard, but certainly I think if you're midlife, you go straight for that snipe. You want to get as many cards as possible for tucking under that Robin. So single food, 5 points even, and helps the end of round goal.
I think the issue with the with June's food that you're picking up on is that they kept the turkey vulture instead of the berry for the flycatcher. So if they wanted to play both the flycatcher and the mallard, if they had dropped the turkey vulture and kept a cherry instead, then they would have only had to pull for food once, and they could get both of them down. But because they kept that turkey vulture.
Yeah, I just the thing is they kept a worm and a seed. I think my play would have been you keep a berry and a worm. You take the worm from the feeder, then you can get the flycatcher down. 1 turn of laying eggs, that gives you a worm. You can play the mallard. Suddenly you've got 2 birds down. You've got eggs down, so you can draw cards and get 3 and see lots more cards. That feels like a good tempo to start the game. This feels a little bit slower. I can only imagine they are going to try and get the vulture, maybe the condor as well, in that forest, and at least reliably get a couple of food. But it's like you said, not the most ideal of forest situations to have.
Yeah. So do you want to bring up the conspiracy theories, or
absolutely
is
not?
That not allowable on your channel?
Conspiracy theories are banned. No. If you feel like you can justify, I think I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the tray.
You're looking at the bluebird and the swift. I know it's a big deck, but they played a whole game. They cycled through a lot of cards. It would be weirder if you didn't see any cards. If we'd seen all different birds, I think that would be the true conspiracy theory.
Well, that's not the kind of thing you're gonna pick up on. Like, that's the kind of thing where you're sitting here binging all of Winging its videos, and you're like, wait, hold on. In all of these tournament games, like, that's not... Yeah. Unless you're Ronster and you have an Excel sheet open on the side while you're playing. Like...
Binging all my videos is highly recommended, by the way, so, feel free to do that.
Okay, so that's an ecologist and an omnivore for June.
Yep.
They're
No,
in a much stronger position in terms of bonus cards.
definitely. You know, ecologist. I see that as a guaranteed 4 in most situations, a guaranteed 6 points, but certainly 4. And yeah, the omnivore. It's obviously not any birds at the moment that they can look to meet that, but certainly, you know, most of the strongest birds in the game are gonna meet that bonus card. So yeah, they will have some good options for scoring points from both those. Like you say, compared to what Midlife has got with the backyard birder, probably not going to get a whole lot of points from that.
Yeah. Midlife seems to have an aversion to playing birds early in the game.
Yeah, they like drawing cards a lot, so I think they'll get that snipe down and then spend the rest of the round drawing cards. No.
Well, I mean, like they've got good cards. Why are you taking food? You can play everything you want.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I think, like you say, they've got enough to play everything really you'd want. You know, I'd get that snipe down. I'd get the robin down. I'd probably look to tuck that migratory bird, unless they're really going to play that in the forest. It feels odd.
Yeah, I think they're trying to play it. Would you play Robin in forest or no? That not.
Probably not here. It works. It can definitely
They
work.
have an open board. I mean, it's not like they're trying to fit anything in.
No, but I just think, you know, with the rest of the setup they've got, you know, all of these end of round goals really are egg related. So you want to be building out that grasslands, and yeah, I mean we touched on this point in game 1 when June played the martin in the wetlands. You know, I think these kind of tucking birds that can go in multiple habitats, I would do that in rare circumstances. You know, 99 times out of 100, it's going to be better in the grasslands, in my opinion, just in the way that this game sets up. So wouldn't surprise me if they play it in the forest, because like I said, it can work, but I think they're better off, particularly, you know, with that sparrow as well, giving them more eggs. I think they'll want to be building up something in the grasslands there.
Yeah, it's a shame that the grasshopper sparrow isn't the chipping sparrow, because then they could have done the forest engine in combination with the snipe and potentially skipped the grasslands out for a few rounds. But with the end of round goals, I don't think even if they could do that, like, I don't know if that would be the best option.
No.
Okay,
Interesting.
that's on whether or not Midlife is going to play a bird this round.
Yeah, at this rate, it's not looking likely.
Don't play the sparrow as your first bird. Don't. Come on, man.
I mean, if they're playing it there, I don't know. Are they gonna? Presumably, they're gonna play some other birds, because, you know, the real strength of these migratory birds is that once you've got that first column filled, and you're kind of switching it between columns, you're always getting 2 of everything, or 3 eggs. You're not having to discard stuff, so that's where they can be useful. But
why
yeah,
would you play it first if you're trying to fill up the first column?
I'm not entirely sure.
Like, you have to go back and gain food that you don't need in order to shove it out of the way.
Yeah, yeah. I think, like you said, you know, I think they already had the food to play it before, so, you know, you could have played that.
Yeah.
You could have played a second bird, and then when you gained food, you know, on that, when they gained food the last time, they could have delayed that a few turns. You know, wait until you've already played the sparrow, and then, like you say, when they're gaining food, they're moving it, they're actively using it, and you know, being able to benefit from its power elsewhere. Like you say, they're going to have to gain food another time in this round in order to really make use of that. So doesn't feel like the right sequence really here from Midlife.
I mean, I guess they might be thinking of the end of round goal, like play all 3 of the enclosure builders and then activate the sparrow to fill all 3 nests, which would take this end of round goal from June.
It would,
So,
and that could be worthwhile. Yeah, it's not a bad option.
I think that's gotta be what's happening.
Yeah, I think that does work, and yeah, they'll have eggs set up. You know, they're really nicely set up for the start of round 2, where they're going to be going first, so they'll be able to see what's in the tray, and yeah, get loads of cards with their martin, and then you know that robin's going to be going down in the grasslands, get loads of tuck cards. Yeah, I think that feels like a straightforward end to this round after what's been a lot of drawing cards and food.
Yeah. Hey, Glenn, what time is it for you right now?
It is coming up to 11:10.
Okay, because Midlife does not have a Martin in this game.
Oh, I meant the robin. You know what I meant.
You said I get a lot of
Oh,
cards with the Martin, and then you said the Robin too. So I was like, do you mean the snipe? Like what?
ignore my bad talking because we've got the gull again. So you
Oh,
know what time it is.
it's conspiracy time.
Yeah,
It's rest for Sparrow times Franklin's Gull time. That's what time it is.
that's really nice. I think this is the right. This, midlife. They had all the best intentions in the world. Like you said, probably get that sparrow down, lay eggs, and win the end of round. But when when life
Rub
gives
it.
you a gull, you take the gull, and there's already a fish in the bird feeder as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a no-brainer, I think.
And it was, I think it might have been smart to skip that snipe power right away because they've got all the birds
Yeah.
that they'd be really looking to play here. And by skipping the snipe, they're sort of starving. Well, June's drawing 3 cards per turn, so
Yeah,
June's getting a decent amount of cards. But
I don't mind it, but equally, I wouldn't have minded if they had used it. Like you say, your opponent's got good
yeah,
card access anyway. But certainly, that goal's going to go down. They're not going to have any, shortage of cards. And yeah, I think the priority would be getting this down. Red start in the tray is quite nice. I'd probably be looking at that if I was midlife, but I don't know.
yeah.
I'm not sure if maybe I would look at spending a turn here, taking that just because their forest is kind of the weakness at the moment. They need good access to food, and certainly that red start is going to help them there.
I always stall out when I end up with Franklin's and a tucking bird in my hand because I'm like, ideally you would get the tucking bird down first and then Franklin so that you draw the 2 cards,
Yep.
you tuck one of them through. But like, it's just hard because if you do it in that order, you're generally sacrificing at least a couple of turns, and then if you don't have the eggs to get both of them down, then you end up having to lay eggs and potentially skip a tuck power, and it just gets real complicated with like tempo and turn order and like what am I spending my time doing right now?
Yep. And I think there was a little bit of that thought in June's head there. They probably expected.
No, don't do it! Don't do it! Don't do it that way!
Yeah,
Oh,
that certainly is the
no,
wrong way.
come on! No!
Because they could have done it. They could have played the robin. You got the cherry.
Yeah, they could have.
You play the robin, then you play the gull, and like you say, you're suddenly
Then you're
getting more points.
like,
Yeah, maybe they've at least kept the cherry, so they are going to play that. But now you've got to get rid of that sparrow, which feels like a bit of a shame. But yeah, just think,
well,
June.
do you have to get rid of the sparrow?
Well, if you want the tuck on the robin, so you don't have to,
Yeah,
but you lose a point if you don't.
yeah.
But yeah, June has kind of had to draw cards another time when they probably were hoping not to. They've got probably more than enough in their hand to play, but I still don't mind it. They've got the red start, which is nice. They can get that down. Suddenly you get 3 food a turn, and they've got a lot of these big point birds. We saw them pick up the road runner in the last round. That's going to help their omnivore bonus. They've got the flycatcher as well. They might want to look to play, but obviously you kind of don't want to be giving too much food to your opponent when they've got a Franklin's Gull. So
Yeah.
I think they want to be getting that red start down now. Start getting food, get as many birds down, not just for the points, but for this end of round goal as well. So I think that's what June is going to be looking to do.
Yeah. Point I have just remembered about Midlife is that Midlife is one of the newer players to the tournament Discord, which I think a link to the Discord will be in the bio of this video if you are not already a member.
Yep.
But
yeah, and really
Midlife
they've hit the ground running since they come in.
Yeah, I think they're in the semifinal or the finals of the top bracket of the newer players tournament on the server. So
Yep.
They clearly know what's going on, but that might be part of the reason why we're seeing a little bit of like some hiccups in there. But they're still scoring really well, which is impressive.
Yeah. I mean, I think hiccup is the right word. It's not a massive mistake. I've done this in tournament games like this before, where you just play birds in the wrong order because you're just not thinking. You see that gull and you think, oh, I need to get that down because it's the best bird, and you maybe miss out on a couple of those extra turns you should have done before. But yeah, certainly, I think we've seen a lot of really strong new players come in. Obviously, the server's expanded quite a lot. in the last couple of months. And like you mentioned, we do have a currently ongoing tournament, which is for new players only. So it gives everyone really a good chance to see what these guys are made of. And yeah, already in round 4 of this tournament, which is really impressive. So you got to be a good player to get this far, and they certainly are.
Since we started with 100 people in this
Exactly.
tournament.
Exactly. Yep. This is round 4, so this is kind of the normal point where you're getting towards that quarter-final, semi-final stage. But I think there's still about another 4 or 5 rounds before we get through to that.
Yeah.
So you got to be good to get this far, but you got to be really good if you're going to get to the later stages. So yeah, absolutely, it's going to be a tough fight. And like we said, it's best of 3. So with June taking that game 1. This is absolutely crucial for Midlife to win, and certainly they've got a nice setup here now in their grasslands.
Yeah. I don't know. They're gonna have to pull for food here, but would you move the sparrow?
I mean, you don't really need to, because
Yeah, they don't have any other
no,
tourist birds on deck, so.
no. I mean, ideally, what they want is they want to be able to pull a forest bird from the deck. So if you get that forest bird, you gain food, you move the sparrow, you play your forest bird, then next time you lay eggs, the sparrow goes back. Suddenly you've got 2 birds in that forest rather than 1. It's not a bad situation at the moment. They've got all these extra cards. The horned lark is probably not one they're going to play, so I'm a bit surprised they didn't discard that for food. But yeah, I think they need that forest bird, and I think that's why they should have looked at the red start. That was in the tray for them at the start of this round. Would have made their life getting food a whole lot easier, and yeah, they're really going to see now their opponent benefiting from that, and June is just absolutely racking up the food. So I'm expecting some big point birds. Probably they're going to look to get the flycatcher.
Yeah, they've just pulled the exact food from the flycatcher.
Yeah, and potentially they'll look at getting that Roadrunner down as well. Although they might have to overpay a little bit just because they've not quite got the food for that. But yeah, certainly they've got some strong options. Well, not for both. They've only got 2 worms.
Oh, true.
So they'll need 3. But yeah, they've got some options. They've also got that other hunting bird. I think they've got the hawk in their hand, which is 2 rodents. So yeah, they could easily play that as well. And like I said, they've got some strong options, and they've got the food for that.
Yeah. I think the hawk is the better option over the roadrunner here. It's 2 less points, but it's 1 less food, and it's more likely to be reliable.
Yeah.
Even though I'm usually a roadrunner fan, but
they do have the omnivore though, so
yes.
It's a couple more points. And I think the only times when I'd seriously look at playing the Roadrunner is if I have omnivore, rodentologist, or falconer. If I'm getting those extra 2 points, again, it's like the burrowing owl that we talked about before. Well, you're not going to get points. You might get a couple of hunts from it, but if I can see 9 points for 3 food, then that's what attracts me into playing that.
Yeah, this isn't even a conspiracy thing for me. I just played the Roadrunner in my first ever game of Wingspan, and it's been stuck for me. Oh, hummingbird.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You can stop talking because we've got the hummingbird, and that's and the bunting and the bush tit. Oh my god, that is set up perfectly. Yeah, that might well be game over. So I think certainly, yeah, bush tit and hummingbird. You run that grasslands for the rest of the game. You're getting food, you're getting cards, you're getting tucks. Yeah, what more do you want?
To be able to get the bunting down. I guess you could drop it in the forest as a point bird, but
potentially
healthy in around bowls. I think you might have to tuck your favorite card here.
I think that's the right play. As much as it pains me to say it, I think the hummingbird, like we've talked about before, when you see your opponent's got easy access to food, you can afford to throw food around a little bit more, and certainly with that hummingbird, yeah, I think that's what Midlife will be looking to do. And yeah, hopefully they can get some big point birds. They'll get the food through the hummingbird, and yeah, that's a really strong position, and it's going to be tough, I think, for June to fight back from that.
Oh, real quick before round 3 gets underway, do you want to call the point difference so we can check the bingo off? I don't know if anyone's doing bingo right now, actually.
I'm keeping an eye on it.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah. So, oh, actually, we did
I'm
have.
keeping an eye on nothing actually.
Yeah. What was? I'm trying to remember what the score difference was in game one. Was it less than 10 points? Because if it,
It was like 10
I
something
think it
to
was.
93.
So I'm going to fill that in. So basically, I just need you to cut me off at some point, which you probably already have done. And
Yeah, I've definitely already done that because like otherwise I wouldn't have talked at all.
all right, there we go. We got a line. So it took
Oh yay!
maybe a game and a half. But yeah, I think awkward silences and commentator getting distracted are pretty much gimme squares as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
not the most difficult line to fill in, but we did it. We got there.
And we could just keep talking for as long as we want because June's having some decision
Yep.
issues.
Yeah, I think they want a rodent, so they want to get that roadrunner down, and they're probably just working
Yeah.
out in their mind, okay, is it worth overpaying? I get out on the reroll, and there we go.
Yay!
There's the rodent they were looking for, so they can get that down. And yeah, I think at this point they're just trying to build up a grassland. So you get that roadrunner down, maybe even they might look at getting the quail down just for some more points and some more egg spaces. But yeah, I think it's not bad. It's not outside of the realms of possibility for June to come back. They've got a good number of points down. Certainly once that roadrunner goes down as well. I just think it's really for for midlife. It's about how quickly can they build this up. How quickly can you get the bush tit and the hummingbird down? Because we are getting into that sort of middle of round 3. You're getting into the late game where you want things set up. So absolutely, every turn's important. You don't want to be wasting turns gaining food here when you could be spending them getting points from your lovely grasslands that you built up.
So you like the play for midlife here would be play the hummingbird, lay an egg to get, and then tuck the bunting and draw more cards because they're gonna need to fuel both the robin and the bush tit. So I guess they're sort of gonna be stuck with running Franklins for a decent amount of the game just to feed the bush tit, just because they're gonna be starting with like 0 cards in their hand, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, you say stuck, like you're going to be scoring a lot of points, so they'll get a lot of eggs, obviously, just base eggs, but also the sparrow, the bush tit, obviously the bush tit and the robin are going to give tucks as well. So it's a nice position to be stuck in. Yeah, certainly, you get the hummingbird down. You might even get a free worm from your opponent, but even if you don't, with that hummingbird, you can make them take food first, get the reroll, and you're so likely to get that worm on the reroll, get that bush tit down, and then you're away.
Yeah, I only say stuck, like stuck running Franklins because I think that's part of the end game goal for running things like Franklins and the killdeer is to sort of shut it off and stop spending the eggs on it, to have enough cards built up that you can run tuck and lays or tuck and draws without sacrificing your cards.
Yeah, it's not a bad point, and maybe they'll get to that point at some point where they will have enough cards. I think for them it's just going to be cycle through. They've got the robin that's going to help with that, so you cycle through the deck, keep any big point birds you get, use the hummingbird to get the food for those. Obviously the flycatcher as well giving you food is nice as well, so that saves a turn, get the bush tit down. But yeah, really it's just about digging through the deck, but you're in that kind of luxurious position of, well, I'm digging through the deck, but I'm scoring a lot of points and getting a lot of food while I'm doing it. So time is on midlife side at the moment. I think even if there are only 8 turns left, I think they still have plenty of time to rack up a good score here.
And they've scored backyard birder.
They have indeed. So the bush tit that got them to that lower threshold, 3 points. It's not bad.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think certainly at this point you take 3 points. You don't worry about trying to get to the 6. And that is a beautiful bonus card pull for June. So what was I saying? You play the Roadrunner if you have the Omnivore or the Rodentologist. Well, they've got both, so that's now an 11-point bird.
Yeah, I told you I'm a Roadrunner fan.
Yeah, well, I think they are considering the Prairie Manager. Maybe they were looking at that scaled quail anyway. That would be their 4th one. I don't know. I'd probably stick to Rodentologist here. For me, it feels a bit too late to be playing something like the quail.
Yeah, it's a guaranteed 4 points versus 0 for the quail,
Yeah.
-2 for the eggs, plus
Yeah.
5. So it's 3 points off the prairie manager. So if you do the math,
Yeah.
rodentologist is better.
Yeah, like you say, you kind of you could get 4 more points from the prairie manager, but if you have to play a 0-point bird, you know,
Yeah.
maybe you play a 4-point bird instead, and you get the same, you know, point total. Certainly, I'd be going rodentologist here, kind of as default, and you know, maybe another bird comes up in the tray that they can get down fairly easily for some points at the end of the game. You know, that's certainly not you know, out of the question. I don't think they have quite enough spaces to just lay eggs the rest of this game, so I think they will have to spend at least, you know, 1 or 2 turns either going for food or picking up more birds.
Yeah. I think the egg spaces is a good point because Midlife, has very few egg spaces. I think it's a 15 egg spaces on them. So they're gonna have to like.
Yeah, when you're gaining
really
5 a
hope for some big
turn,
birds.
yeah, you kind of. I did say time was on their side earlier. They will have to get something probably within the next few turns just to at least be able to, yeah, clear out some egg spaces, and I think they'll need to think about, yeah, you know, getting some big point birds. You know, the biggest point bird they've got down is a snipe, which is not that many points, and you kind of look on. No, you look on June's board. They've got 4 birds that are worth at least 5 points. So it's kind of, they're going to be scoring very differently here. I think it's going to be lots of bird points for June. It's going to be lots of bonus cards points, and I think they've done pretty well in these end of round goals as well. But you know, for Midlife, it's going to be all about those eggs and those tuck cards. Really, they will need to try and get some big point birds. Probably not what they're looking for. Nope. When you've already filled your grasslands and you draw birds that can only go there, that's a bit of a shame. But yeah,
that Inca dove is like peak 0 points.
Yep.
Because you've already filled up your grasslands and you only have 2 basket nest birds. Like, so that's not even the right. They got 2 star nests and that's it. Like.
Yeah, not ideal. Certainly tucking fodder, I feel like. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it wasn't a great pull, but they still scored like 7 points, I think, on that turn and got food. So it's not terrible. And you know, June is scoring respectfully. I think they're being very tactful here in trying to deny food for their opponent. I do wonder, you know, I think they'll have to activate it a couple of times if they want to play that warbler in their hand. That certainly feels like a nice option with the worms.
If they drop a turn and jump up to their forest, they can get that warbler down by overpaying horribly. Like, no matter what they roll, if they don't get the reroll of Red Start, which they have, like, I've been keeping track every time they've had to re-roll for a certain thing. Red Start, they've gotten it. So.
Yeah, and equally, you know, they might just be relying on this hummingbird. Obviously, the worm's not in the feeder at the moment for them. But I think in a situation like this where you and your opponent both have these kind of co-op birds, you know, if you're skipping yours, it forces your opponent to use theirs more. So they're going to still be able to count on some free food, and yeah, I think it's smart. Certainly in a situation like this, you kind of want to deny giving that food as long as possible. You know, if you give it on that last turn, and that's as late as you can get away with, then that's ideal. You know, the earlier they give away this food, the more likely it is that Midlife's going to be able to use it to get a bird down if they can actually draw one that they want to play, because at the moment, not quite going to plan.
Barnacle is decent. 4 egg spots for that last end around goal, and it's 5 spots.
Yeah.
I think they might be a little worried about their egg spaces, and so they're looking for higher point birds, but that merganser pull is sort of a signal that, like, they're worried about running out of egg spaces.
Yeah, it's a good point on the owl. You know, if they play that, so they get 4 egg spaces from it, they'll clear 1 from playing it, so that gives them at least 1 more turn of laying eggs there, and yeah, helps for the end of round goal as well. So Merganser is an interesting one, a little bit expensive. You know, they have already got the food to play it, and again, it has got lots of egg spaces, but playing a bird that's only going to get you 2 points at the end of the game, it feels a bit slow. Even if it does, enable you to max out your egg spaces. So
Midlife's gonna be like so proud of winning this game, and then come and rewatch this and listen to you like.
well, you say proud of winning this game like it's guaranteed. I wouldn't be so sure. I feel like June's in a really strong position here. So they have gone for the quail. We did speak a bit about before how it was a bit slow, but obviously the prairie manager they've kept. 56 points plus 3 from the end of round. Yeah, that's not a bad position to be in. And really, their end game is straightforward. Lay eggs as many times as possible. You're getting like 6 or 7 points a time there, easy. And maybe get a couple of free worms. Play the warbler as well for big points. It feels fairly straightforward. Whereas I think, for midlife, it is going to be a little bit inefficient. Some of these low point birds they might have to play, and maybe even missing out on some eggs at the end. So I wouldn't count June out of this game quite yet.
I'm not trying to count June out. It's just the mother-in-law who's sitting here waiting so patiently. We gotta give your viewers the French accent.
Indeed, he wants that game 3. And to be honest, I think, we put bias to a side, and you want to get as many games as possible. So certainly having a best of 3 where everything's on the line in that third game is never a bad position to be in. So certainly it's going to be close. Certainly it's going to be a close game.
Yeah. Best of 3 is much more fun to watch when it goes to 3 games.
Absolutely.
And if you're a player, you're just sitting there like, I thought this was going to be done an hour ago.
Yeah, as a player, I hate going to game 3. It's so stressful.
We got a raven in the tray that's about to get wiped off the map, but... Oh no, it stays. Okay.
Probably...
They both filled up their grasslands.
I was going to say, probably a bit late anyway for that one. So I'd be surprised if that gets played at all, but...
I like the cross build for midlife. Just in terms of points, that's their best option. But they're gonna have to pay through the nose for it. So.
Yeah, I think they want to try and get some of these cheaper ones down. So they'll look at the turn. They see those rodents in the tray. They probably think, okay, I can get a rodent. I can get that barn owl down. That's going to get more egg spaces. So that seems to be the logical play, and that should probably give them enough, I think, to just run the grasslands on those other turns. But yeah, we have got a poll in the chat. So if you are watching, feel free to vote on who you think is going to win this game. It is very close, almost too close to call. If I have to put a name on who I think is going to win, I'm going to put my neck on the line and say that June's going to win. But it's up to you. Please.
Betting against the goal.
Well, it's difficult. I mean, we did get a little sneaky peek of June's score. I've not been paying enough attention on midlife to see if they have flashed up their score at all. So maybe they have, and I'm just being really stupid and not reading. But I think they have got some fairly clear turns. Like I said, they got that black turn down, which is nice. You get the barn owl down as well. That makes sense. And yeah, they have, I think, managed the egg spaces relatively well. I do wonder if they might miss out on a couple. Maybe they might have to play something like the kingbird, which is again quite low points for the end of the game. But I'm probably looking at that wren if I'm midlife, and you've got the food for the wren and the barn owl as a double play, and suddenly you free up all the egg spaces in the world, and you can lay eggs twice.
If you play the kingbird, that maxes out backyard birder, but you do the same if you play the house wren. So I think switching kingbird for house wren is...
Yeah, it doesn't quite max it out. If they did wren and
kingbird... No, because the turn qualifies.
No.
That gets them 6.
No, because the turn is 4. It has to be less than 4. So they're only on 5.
Isn't it 4 or less?
No, it has to be less than 4. Because the hummingbird's 4 as well, and that's not counted towards it.
Is it not? Not bad.
But they are going for the wren, which I think makes sense here. So that certainly seems straightforward. They've got a couple of egg spaces now. You play the wren and the owl. that'll put you up
And that
to
would fix you.
13, I think, something like that, and that's enough to legs twice. So yeah, that certainly makes sense, I think, for whatever Midlife's planning, and that might just about be what is going to nick it for them in the end. But certainly it feels like it's going to be close, and it's potentially going to come down to how many successes can this Roadrunner and this Hawk get. If they go 100% for the rest of the game, then that's certainly going to help you.
Yeah. Come on, Road. Oh, it's a shame that they're doing the double play, because otherwise they would have finished with the exact same board layout. Finding the presence, and then
yeah, it's almost a classic Wingspan layout. Ignore the forest, ignore the wetlands, get every single bird in the grasslands, and try and max that out. And yeah, they've certainly both done that here.
Well, it's such a strong strategy, and I know there's been a lot of discussion with the European expansion coming out on like what's gonna happen with the whole grassland and spam strategy when all of these. Oh wait, we've got trivia activation.
Yeah, I think there will be maybe a little bit of a shift. Certainly, there are some stronger powers that go in the forest and in the wetlands. I think certainly more wetland engine options, which is always nice to see. But certainly, yeah, it will be very interesting. I've not had a whole lot of experience recently with that European expansion, so praying for that to come out on the digital version as soon as possible, so that we can get our hands on it and start experiencing it again.
Yeah. Well, at least you've got the option to practice. I don't even own the board. I don't own the board game.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few. I know quite a few top players who are really nervous on the server about, they've not played the European expansion, so that's going to come out, and they're really going to struggle because so many players have got a lot of experience with these expansions. And I think just having that kind of heads up of, which are the good birds and which aren't, and being able to recognise those, from the get-go is such a strong position. So yeah, might be some shake-ups, and maybe some newer players like Midlife today, who are gonna potentially pull off some upsets.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, those predators have been doing pretty well. More tucks on the Roadrunner than on the Hawk.
Yeah, it's interesting that June chose to skip the flycatcher there. I kind of expected them to use it and try and get this warbler down, because they are running out of egg spaces. They're kind of gambling here that Midlife is going to use the hummingbird, and I don't think they will. And yeah, they have skipped it. So certainly, I think if you're June, if they use the flycatcher there, you can play the warbler, and then you still have that extra seed to discard for food on that last turn. I mean, I suppose they can still do it now, but I think that's going to run out of egg spaces, because they're getting more from the quail as well. So a little bit of a misplay, I feel like, here. They've maybe missed out on one egg, and this feels like a really close game, and in these close games like this, you can't afford to be leaving any points on the table. You want to be maximising, squeezing every point you can out of it, and it feels like they've missed out on one there.
Just because they're going to have to spend it to play the warbler and be one short on filling up those egg spaces.
Yeah, well, just because they're going to get that food left over at the end. So if they'd taken the food from the flycatcher last turn and played the warbler now, they'd have those egg spaces. They could still discard that food, but they're not going to have that option here. But like you said before, those hunting powers have been so strong. That Roadrunner 4 hunts is so nice, and it's keeping up with the Hawk, even though that's in theory the stronger power.
Yeah, I told you, I love the Roadrunner.
75%. Where's Mother Love? 75%.
Is that all it is?
No, it's less than that. It's like 55%. But that's Mother Love's conspiracy theory, is that it's 75%. I'll just humour him on that.
7 points though.
Yeah, well, I mean, for June it's been worth 11 from the bonus cards as well. So.
Oh yeah. You and your remembering bonus card.
Indeed. But yeah, so poll is now closed. We had a few votes, split 50-50 down the middle. So It seems
Oh,
like the viewers agree that this is going to be a close one, and yeah, I think obviously Midlife had a really strong final round.
look at this one. Look
Absolutely,
at this.
absolutely
Look
destroyed
at
that last end around goal. So yeah,
18-1.
it's gonna be really close.
Hey, fingers crossed nobody skips it.
I still feel quite confident that June's won this. Just purely from those bonus cards. I mean,
Oh, look at
look at
those
that.
bonus.
14 points is huge.
Yeah.
But you know, those eggs and tuck cards, that's where Midlife's going to bring it back. So it's going to be really close.
Ah,
Ah, and there we go.
oh,
June takes it 98 to 92. So
dang it.
again, really close game.
Yeah.
And very well played, I think, from both players there. You know, we had a couple of
I'm
those
just
co-op
gonna.
powers. You gotta manage those well, and I think both players did. So yeah, really good game. Shame it doesn't go to game 3, but you know, I think
Yes.
that was a really good game 2. As my phone decides to start talking to me in the middle of my outro.
Well, we couldn't hear it, so
All good, all good. Good stuff. All right, I will.
bring him back in
I'll
for an interview, or
indeed. I will. I will undeafen both players and take them off
I
mute.
think we could probably just watch it on Midlife screen.
Yeah, we can see them chatting away. But yep, so you are both off deafen and mute. So first of all, congratulations to June. Very well played, taking it in 2 games. But yeah, that was especially that second game really close, very tight. Really didn't know which way it was going to go. But yeah, we'll start with June, I guess. How did you find those 2 games?
Actually, great games.
Mm.
Really enjoyed them. Yeah, and that last game, I didn't know I'm gonna win. Thought I'm gonna lose, to be honest, because when I saw he draw a Gull, especially,
Yep.
he had really strong grassland also. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always a
Somehow I managed to open it.
yeah, it's always a bit daunting, I think, going against something like the Gull, and like you say, some nice tucking birds as well. But yeah, Midlife, commiserations. I think you definitely played well. You know, some really good scores, I think, from both players. But yeah, what are your thoughts on those games?
They were fun. I thought I had the second game, especially when I had that Gull and pulled some good cards after that. But yeah, June pulled through. First game, there's definitely some nerves. It's weird playing when people are watching. Made a few mistakes and was kind of kicking myself, but I'll be very interested to rewatch this and hear your guys' commentary and just try to learn a little bit, make better decisions. But fun games. Well played.
No, like yeah, well played. Definitely, but well played to both players. You know, I think it was both players above 90 in both those games. So you know, really strong scores. And yeah, so it's a shame to score 90 in 2 games and get knocked out. But you know, I think yeah, both you played that really well. And yeah, absolutely no shame there. So yeah, I will wrap the stream up now. So thanks everyone who's joined us. Thanks to the players. Appreciate you doing this, and thanks to my co-host, so Groovenstein, who joined me for game 1, and Elsie, who's with me here for game 2. But yeah, we'll wrap this up and hopefully see you again for our next live stream.